Fight fans, welcome back to Carl Perez MMA. Today we got a fun one for you. My guest today, getting ready, returning to that UFC Octagon November 8th. Big contest, taking on Matt Schnell. He is Ultimate Fighter winner, Mr. Joseph Morales. Joseph, what's up, my friend? How are you?
Good, man. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, man. Thank you for coming back on here, talking to me.
Yep.
Last time we talked, right after your victory, big Ultimate Fighter winning contest. Few months removed now. Does it settle in, man? You're Ultimate Fighter champ?
Yeah, I gave myself a few weeks and to celebrate, and people were recognizing me around town, and it was pretty cool, telling me congratulations. Some people I've never met before, just randomly. So, I got to enjoy that for a little bit, but then it was right back to work and focused on to the next thing.
Absolutely. You've been at the sport for a very long time, multiple stints in and out of the UFC here. So many people are watching it now. Very few people understand the grind that it takes to be a fighter. Obviously, when you're battling on the regional scene, you're not making the Conor McGregor money. You have to work 9 to 5 jobs a lot of times for people, stay up late, wake up early, sacrifice everything just for the chance. Obviously now making it back. How do you get through that grind, man? How do you battle through the sacrifices?
Um, just mentally kind of like enjoying it and just surrounding myself with the right people who enjoy the grind as well. I got a lot of good buddies where we just our hangouts are let's go do this crazy workout. You know what I mean? So it's easier when you have good people around you and who are motivated to be successful in and out of fighting. So that's good. And then I have a great family support too. My wife and my kids are they always push me, and so I like to lead by example, and I want to show my son how to work hard. So I always got to make sure that I'm doing the same thing.
Absolutely. You train over Team Alpha Male, Uriah Faber, the rest of the guys over there.
Yeah.
How did you hook up with Uriah? How did you become part of that Team Alpha Male family?
I met Uriah when I was about like 9 or 10 years old, and I was training at a small jiu-jitsu school at the time. And he was gonna open up a gym, and it was gonna be an MMA school, and I was interested. I was just doing jiu-jitsu at the time, but I wanted to do MMA, and I liked it a lot, and so I hooked up with him, and my pop signed me up to the gym, me and him together at Ultimate Fitness, and yeah, the rest is history, man. I've been there ever since.
It's kind of crazy, man. You've been doing this for over a decade here. And, the time when you started, MMA was definitely on the rise. It was starting to get more mainstream, but it's nothing like it is today. I mean, the paydays, the amount of UFC shows we see a year, how global it is. Are you surprised of what it is now?
No, not really, because for me, I was a huge fan as a kid, and I always thought that like the fighters were super famous and stuff like that, so I always kind of treated it that way. But it's nice to see how much it's grown and how popular it is, and it's like a huge deal to be in the UFC now, and people treat it that way.
Absolutely. When you look at a map of the United States, you see different hotbeds for MMA. California, obviously one of them. I mean, there's so many regional shows going on in California every week. It's very hard to keep up with it. There's all these big gyms. What is it with California, the MMA? What's it with the culture of that state and mixed martial arts?
I think it's just the wrestling aspect to it. California's always been a like super competitive state in wrestling, and I think that translates to mixed martial arts. Everybody that's like the next outlet into making money after wrestling and stuff like that. So I think that's why it's so big. But they've always been California's always been representative in a lot of sports. Football is a big one too. There's always some superstar football players coming out of California, and I think MMA is the next one that we're gonna see like these superstars come out of.
It's kind of crazy to think about it now. Obviously, how the sport has evolved. One thing we're seeing is how the talent has evolved. I mean, there's 22, 23-year-old kids going in the UFC right now looking like seasoned contenders. And I think one of the main reasons is, at 6, 7 years old now, kids are learning jiu-jitsu. They're enrolled in places like Uriah Faber at such a young age. It's the sports talked about now, the dinner's table. It's not fringe anymore. It's something that a lot of people know and love. Is this one of the reasons we're starting to see all this involvement and skill increase?
I think yes, I think so. I got kids that are like 5 years old, 4 years old that are in my jujitsu class who are doing things that I couldn't do at the age that of 10, So like the sport has evolved so much. I think it's just because it's become so more like mainstream and normalized, like just to be in self defense. And, I feel like the outlet of everybody wants to be McGregor, everybody wants to be O'Malley, everybody wants to be the next superstar in the sport. And, that translates pretty fast when the 6-year-old is watching Conor McGregor do spinning heel kicks and they go and try it at practice.
Absolutely. You've experienced obviously the highs and lows that this sport has to offer. You made your debut, Davison Figueiredo, obviously went on to be a champion, one of the biggest names in the sport, still doing really well. Looking back at it, man, what was that experience like?
It was tough at first. I didn't realize how much it would be like of a learning lesson for me. And it took a while to kind of get over and just kind of, help push me into the athlete that I am today and the person that I am. And just, take those learning lessons and maybe not fight a guy in his hometown in front of thousands of people who are saying you're going to die. So that was definitely an experience.
Following that, you had another fight, didn't go your way. You were back on the regional scene, man, redoing that grind, the staying up early or staying up late, waking up early. What was the mindset at that time trying to get back?
I think just trying to stay as positive as I can, and then I took time off from just training in general. I took about 2 years off, with the injuries and stuff like that. So mentally, I was able to just kind of mature and focus on other things, and ultimately come to the idea that I wanted to keep fighting and to be able to push through the work. My first stint in the UFC, I was working 40 hours a week, before I got to the UFC. So I knew if I could get like a part time job, even if it was like shitty hours or something like that, like I would be able to make it back to the UFC. And now I have a job where it's just teaching jujitsu, and I get that's everything that you could ask for. I never thought I'd be able to make a living doing that, and now I'm able to support my training camps, and I have enough money to be able to pay my coaches and do the right things that I need to do for camp. So it's a good thing to be able to focus 100% on that, and then still on the back burner be able to do things that I enjoy doing.
Now, for you, do you get more nervous when you're coaching at tournaments and other guys' fights than when you actually go out there and do it?
100%, 100%. I think it feels like you don't have the control of the emotions, you don't have the control of the actions. And I try to tell my fighters like all the time, like, hey, like when I'm coaching, it's like being in a video game. Like I have the controller, I'm trying to press these buttons. Like when I'm pressing these buttons, please like follow the directions, because I see things differently than I understand too. Like I see things differently from the outside looking in, and I'm sure my coaches feel the same way. So trying to get the students to trust into your coaches is a big deal. And, when they don't trust and they're doing their own thing, it feels like when your big brother takes your controller out when you're playing a fight video game and you can't punch and you're getting beat up. So I feel like the emotion of coaching and the nervousness is uncontrollable. And when you're a fighter, it's easier to control.
Obviously, you're a big BJJ guy. BJJ, just like mixed martial arts, the sport's starting to get a lot of traction, a lot of popularity. UFC now launching their BJJ show, getting tons of eyeballs on it. What are your thoughts?
On UFC BJJ?
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's got some room to grow. I haven't watched any of the cards, but that's just me. I've just been kind of busy on the fights and training and stuff like that. But I enjoy it. I hope it's like a good path to the sport. It's the same thing with MMA, how we were just talking about, like how it wasn't so mainstream at the start, and it's got room to grow, and I hope it does grow. I hope UFC BJJ is successful for. I got students that want to be in the UFC but don't want to fight, so I think there's just another path.
Absolutely. There's so many fans watching it. Now we have a term called the casual fan. So before I get into this, I think all fans are good, but these are the folks. Sometimes you go to Buffalo Wild Wings, you might hear twist them in the what when they're on the ground. You hear some things, you read some things, just absolutely foolishness sometimes. What are your thoughts when you hear comments like this?
Like the casuals.
Yeah.
It's funny. I have a lot of students. I coach at Sac State. So it's like this new club program. We get a lot of casual people that want to come in and like, oh, I want to be an MMA fighter, and they're trying to join the club, and it's more difficult than they kind of imagine, and but like I said, we try to welcome everybody and not have any judgment to anybody that's coming in with zero experience. So for casual fans, I think the thing that I could recommend the most is start training if you really, really enjoy the sport. But make sure you're training before you start judging fighters because it's different from you know it's different when you understand the sport than when you're just kind of seeing it from the outside.
Absolutely. So you're getting ready, making your return here to the Octagon, November 8th, taking on Matt Schnell. Overall, what do you think of him as an opponent here?
I think he's a tough opponent. He's dangerous. He's always game. He's never in a boring fight, whether he's on the wrong end of it. His fights are always bloody. Somebody's always bleeding. So I expect a lot of blood from the fight. But I'm looking forward to this matchup, and yeah, no, I think I'll be able to come out victorious, whether it's on the feet or on the ground. I think I'd just be able to put him away.
In this one, obviously doing it in the Apex, you're dealing with a smaller cage. Do you think that fits better for your style?
Um, I didn't really think about it. I want to be in his face and push the pace and be in pressure, but I don't think it makes a difference in the style. I fought in the Apex twice in the Ultimate Fighter, and then I was able to fight in the big cage, and I was in everybody's face. I don't think it really makes that much of a difference when the size of the cage. It's a cage. You're going to be locked in there, and it's just time to throw some punches.
Absolutely. They have this one listed as the co-main event right now. Is that pretty cool to see that?
That is pretty cool. I don't know if I am the main event, the co-main event, but I think it'd be pretty cool. I get a little bit of extra spotlight on the fight.
Absolutely. With Matt Schnell, obviously a guy, name in the sport. If you watch him, you know who he is. With a big win over him, do you think this really helps really push you and really help get the second stint going here?
I think he's got a name. He's had what 14, 15 fights in the UFC, which is a lot. I admire him for that. I want to make a name for myself and be able to have that many fights. And continue to shine. So, he does have some spotlight, and to be able to take a name out is definitely, put your name in the hat for those top guys. And I just want to build myself up and fight the smart fights and get to the top ranks. And once I get to the ranks, try to fight for that title.
For you, what's the ultimate goal?
To get the title, man, and be a champion. That's the ultimate goal. I think that's why everybody's in this sport. You're not in this sport to go, be a journeyman or anything like that. Like I want to, make a name and fight for the belt.
Absolutely. One thing I love about martial arts is the values and morals that are associated with it. I've had guys on this show tell me when they first started, they were going on a bad path in life. MMA provided guidance, discipline, turned them to who they are today. How do you think you've grown and evolved from this journey in combat sports?
I think it's taught me a lot about just life and the ups and downs, and no matter what life throws at you, stay calm and fight your way through it, and be able to find, a solution to any problem that comes up. And I think that's the biggest thing for me. This last stint, I think, what was it? April, I want to say 20, it's going to be 2 years in April that I've had my sobriety. So that's a big deal for me too. I stopped drinking, I stopped smoking weed and doing other, whatever other drug there was. But that was a big deal for me, and look where it's got me. I think it kind of helped me, stay focused and try to find other things to help better my life. And I'm in like the best shape of my life right now, and I'm ready to, ready to make a run.
Do you think fighting is more mental than it is physical?
100%. Yeah, 100%. I think, if you're mentally 100% there, your physical is going to be 100% there. And even if your physical is 50%, and your mental's 100%, well, you have 100% of 50%. Like you'll be able to go in there, whatever injuries you're dealing with, and still be able to put on a good show. You hear about these guys like Alex Pereira, like they go in and he's got his fractured leg, and he goes in and win his belt. Like it's 100% mental, and just believing in yourself and having the faith of a mustard seed. That's like one of my favorite quotes. Like faith of a mustard seed. Like the more you water it, the bigger it grows, and so just doing the right things to water that faith, and it's gonna grow bigger and bigger.
We've talked about already, how the sport has grown and evolved. We've talked about the casual fans, how there are more eyeballs on this. And I think for the most part, people understand that guys in the UFC, they're training to get fights, get bigger fights, win belts, and all that stuff. Very few people understand the fight outside the fight. To me, that's that fight not to clock in at 9 o'clock in the morning, clock it at 10, at 5.
Yeah.
That's that fight to secure financial freedom. That's that fight to live your life your way. Don't follow societal norms, build a platform, create a message, live with a purpose. Has that been a big part of your journey?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. The financial freedom for my family and for my kids, and to be able to put them on the correct path, and then I didn't graduate college, and now I'm teaching jujitsu at a college, and I want to be able to give that to them. Like, hey, like I didn't have this opportunity to go to school, and now you guys do. Like my family didn't have the money to do that. I just want to be able to take care of them, and my wife is she's got her own business ideas and things that she wants to do, and when I'm done fighting, I want to be able to support those goals and those aspirations for her, because she's done the same for me for so long.
What do you want your kids to take away from this journey?
Just being mentally tough, and no matter what life throws at you, dude, just like don't quit, and keep onto the path. The quote I just put up on my last post was, if you're going through hell, keep going.
Absolutely. Before we wrap up here, I want to go through some big fights. I want to get your predictions. Who's going to win some of these big matchups as we close
All
out the
right,
year?
this one's gonna
Big,
be fun then.
big one in November. Always going back to Madison Square Garden. The co-main event on that one is an absolute super fight. Weili Zhang, Valentina Shevchenko. Who wins?
I think Valentina Shevchenko wins that fight. I think her takedowns are more all around. Her jiu-jitsu is getting better, and her striking's always been very good. So I think Valentina takes it.
The main event from that one is a banger, too. You got Islam Makhachev coming up, trying to get a second belt. Jack Della Maddalena putting the 170 strap on the line. Who wins that one?
My heart wants Jack Maladilic. Jack. Let's just say Jack, man. And
JDM.
then yeah, JDM. I want JDM to win. But I think Islam is just too well rounded, too strong. He's going up a weight class. He doesn't have to deplete his body, and he's had a lot of time to put some muscle and get stronger. I think he's going to be able to pull it off.
Absolutely. Then in November, we got a big 155 contest. Arman Sarukian taking on Dan Hooker. Who wins that one?
Arman. I think Arman wins it easy. I think if I had a guess, I'd say a first round knockout.
Absolutely. Then the last big one of the year, December, co-main event. You got Josh Van taking on Alexander Pantoja. Who wins that?
I like Josh Van. I think he's very good. He's fast. He's got good striking. We haven't got to see a lot of his grappling yet. He's got decent takedown defense. We've seen that against I think it was Ray he fought, where he just could not hold him down or take him down at all. So that one's interesting. But Pantoja, I think he's just a legend in the sport. And he's still gonna make his reign. I think he finishes the fight with a submission.
The main event that night, obviously, Merab Dvalishvili, Piotr Yan. Who wins it?
I think Marab, he's a machine. He's it. That's it. He's a machine. He's gonna keep pushing for that takedown. I think he's gonna get it.
Absolutely. We should mention some of the biggest names in the sport right now. Obviously, you train with some of the biggest names over at Team Alpha Male. Do you still get motivated from this? Like, are you watching, if it's Saturday or something, you're putting on the fights, you see the big main events. Does that pump you up? Does that inspire you?
Yeah, it does. I don't like watch the fights a lot. I usually pick and choose which fights from each card that I'm gonna watch. But like one of the main reasons like it motivated me was when I was with Yan Xiaonan for her fight, UFC 300. I was in her corner. She brought me in as a training partner, and just being in that environment, and seeing the, hearing the crowd from the locker room and all that stuff. Like it was a huge motivator to get back into the UFC and want to just keep fighting and stuff. And and being at UFC 319 in Chicago, and the crowd and all that, like it was definitely a moment, like a full circle moment to be back there, and it didn't feel like I was gone at all.
That 125 division, it's really interesting when you look at the history of it. For so long, Demetrius Johnson was in there, unbeatable guy. They literally started a reality show just to try to find him an opponent.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of guys lost interest in that division because he was just dominating everybody. He goes over to one. Now you see where that division's become. There's huge name after name after name after name. 125 is now premier division in the sport once again. Is it pretty cool
Yep.
being in it?
Yeah, that's one of the biggest things for me is like I've always felt like I was one of the top flyweights in the world, and to be with all of the top flyweights in the world now, it's just it solidifies it. And I enjoy the test, and I want to be able to fight the best guys in the division and in the sport, and take them out and prove that I belong here.
Absolutely. All right, Joseph, last question for you, my friend. In a perfect world, what is the outcome November 8th when you make your return to the UFC Octagon against Matt Schnell?
The perfect world, ideal. I knock him out in the first round, and I walk away with the 50K bonus.
Absolutely. Joseph, man, thank you once again for taking the time out, talking to me. I really appreciate it and can't wait for this one, my friend.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. That's it for us today. I'm Carl Bruzzi. He's Mr. Bopo. He is Joseph Morales. Watch him November 8th, taking on Matt Schnell. Take care, fight fans.